You know, there's something that has been eating at me a bit. Where, as far as gaming goes, now I play a lot of different games on here, on the channel. And in the midst of all of it, there's something that I have come to a realization. And that is that AAA gaming is kind of going down in the toilet. Now, I have reasons why I say this, and I'm going to go over them. But just to expand into the fact that a good amount of the games that I've been playing so far have been from indie companies. Small little companies that are definitely listening to the people who are playing their game, making several changes as the game goes on, and trying to best work out what they can. You know, they've been doing great. Like, of course, the games that I do play on the channel, I love to play them for several reasons, those being a few. And I have really, a lot of AAA gaming companies, you know, I used to be a really big fan. But as it stands, you know, with the gaming industry as it is, AAA gaming had been a major cornerstone of the gaming world for seemingly decades. You know, and as years go on, they've grown with lavish productions. They have colossal budgets for as big as they've gotten. And being AAA, there are high expectations that have been the hallmark for games from different studios like Ubisoft, EA, Bethesda, Blizzard, and that's just to name a few. But in the last recent years, like, AAA gaming has gone down the hole drastically. And there's lots of cracks that are being exposed that could honestly just lead to the wipeout of companies like these. So I'm just going to delve into some of the biggest flops that have really only just recently happened, which is what's really causing me to be very skeptic towards a lot of these big name developers, and what's ultimately pushing me towards not even caring about, or even have cared about, the games and such they've put out in the past couple years. And the biggest one for me, and I'm just going to go hit hard from the beginning. Ubisoft. It is very hard to talk about AAA gaming without mentioning Ubisoft. Okay? Ubisoft, one of my most favorite franchises from Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed. They also have made the Far Cry series, the Rainbow Six series. Ubisoft has been a huge juggernaut in this industry, and in the past couple years has painted such a grim picture. Needless to say, they've definitely had poor sales over the past few years. The launches have been definitely ill received, and they've had an over-reliance on repetitive formulas that have really kind of tarnished their reputation, on top of the fact of just a lot of things that have been said in general. To put into example is the 2024 slate. Okay, a lot of fans were looking towards, now mind you, I never played The Division, but I do know a lot of fans had looked towards the titles The Division Heartland, and also Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Now, both releases, they were plagued throughout with buggy launches, and the gameplay, from what I've read, has been considerably uninspired. Fans were expecting majorly engaging worlds, but they were instead greeted with a grind-heavy system and a lot of microtransactions. Basically what you would see inside of a second-string MMO. And even Assassin's Creed Mirage. Okay? And I'm just going to point out here the Assassin's Creed series. Again, it was one of my favorite series growing up. You know, I played all the way from the first Assassin's Creed and through to Origins. And honestly, when Origins came out, I thought they were actually reviving the series. I thought they did really well. And then Valhalla, and Odyssey, and now Mirage, which, while they seemingly said they were trying to recapture the roots of the series, they all definitely fell short of those expectations. It was definitely a very shallow experience that it failed to justify even putting the AAA price tag on. For me, it would probably, even when it's been on sale for like $20, I still am very off-put about maybe even getting it. Which followed was a near catastrophic financial spiral. Now, this is just what I've read, that there are reports of Ubisoft being on the brink of bankruptcy. And their reliance on a few key franchises definitely made it clear that they had overextended themselves a little. Their attempt to chase trends like the live service models without solid execution, it really only made things worse. And again, Ubisoft, one of my biggest companies that I followed, and it just went down the hole. Now, another titan of the gaming world, BioWare. They aren't immune to the industry woes either. Now, I only recently got to play Dragon Age, and I loved it. The first Dragon Age, I actually really liked it. You know, and so they've been hailed for crafting several RPGs, you know, like Dragon Age, as well as they do the Mass Effect series, you know, but the studio itself, their reputation is also taking several hits. Like the most recent example, Veilguard. Now, fans waited nearly a decade for the next installment in the Dragon Age franchise, and anticipation was at an all-time high. Unfortunately, Veilguard was a perfect storm of bad decisions from what I have seen. It has a very lackluster story to a poorly executed combat mechanics. And from everything that I have read through boards, the game has just failed to capture the magic of its predecessors. Now, I'm gonna put credit where credit is due in the sense that, you know, sequels are more often than not better than the originals. But at the very least, they could capture something that makes it feel like it's in that line, makes it feel complete. But worse still, it seems as if BioWare has abandoned the deep role-playing elements that actually made the game unique. Instead, they're just focusing more on action-orientated approach that has pretty much alienated the core fan base for these games. And the sales are reflecting that backlash. Veilguard has barely recouped its dev cost, and it's fell pretty short of EA's expectations. Now, falling short of EA's expectations is easy because they expect a lot, but in a sense, it seems as if they've also fallen short of EA's capabilities. Now, there are EA titles that I'm fine with, but we all know how EA has been well over the years. The game's failure not only has disappointed fans, but also further highlighted the decline of a studio once synonymous with quality storytelling. I swear, come on BioWare. What are we doing here? Now, moving over to couple others here. Now, indie-style AAA games have actually emerged as a trend in recent years, and the game Dustborn was supposed to be a shining example of that. It was marketed as a narrative-driven action-adventure game, and it promised to be a bold and colorful world with a story centered around a band of misfits in dystopian America. Sounds kind of fun. Sounds like a perfect action-adventure setting. Now, on the surface, it also looked like it had everything going for it. A unique art style, an inclusive cast, a focus on player's choice, which is always nice. But as players and critics quickly discovered, the game really struggled in areas that mattered most. The gameplay itself was lackluster, some would say shallow, with repetitive mechanics and underwhelming combat for being an action-adventure game. The narrative, which was heavily marketed as its strong suit, from what I've seen, is that it's pretty disjointed and cliche, so kind of like, you know, an 80s action movie. And the critics, they have been harsh. The fan reception, tepid at best. Many felt the game was more concerned with ticking boxes than actually delivering a truly cohesive experience. And for their heart being in the right place, it looks like Dustborn just ended up lacking the polish and depth to be able to stand out in a crowded market. And despite its mid-tier budget, its failure only added to the growing distrust of AAA's promising much and delivering little. Next company I'm going to be talking about, Sony. Alright, now Sony, you be doing things, and hold on, and after this we will get to the major elephant, so just hear me out on this. So Sony had positioned themselves to announce their next big exclusive, Concord. And it was supposed to be a sci-fi multiplayer shooter. Hey, sci-fi multiplayer shooter, that's 3 words we all could get behind if it's done properly. And the game was promised innovative mechanics and unique settings. I mean, Sony ended up pushing this thing into overdrive, hoping that the game would be a game changer for the genre. Yeah, what followed was anything but. From the moment that it was launched, Concord was apparently marred by several connection issues. The content was definitely not there, and a steep learning curve that actually ended up alienating the more casual style players. And apparently the game itself also really lacks any identity, and it became a recurring critique as well on that. Which, for saying that they're introducing all this innovative stuff and it becomes a lack of identity, I mean, what does that tell you? You know, like, for what it's worth and trying to cater to everyone, it doesn't please anyone. You know, the fans of sci-fi shooters really laid into it about its uninspired design, and while others just lamented about the confusing progression systems in it. The sales numbers were even more disappointing. Go figure. I mean, despite the heavy marketing, it struggled to gain any traction. And to be quite honest, up until more recently, I actually had no idea about Concord being launched, which makes me feel like, where was the marketing for it in the first place, even though they put so much into marketing for it? Now, it became one of the worst performing exclusives in Sony's recent history. And for many, the game's failure was a stark reminder that even the industry giants aren't immune to colossal missteps. Now, on to the Biggin, Nintendo. What in the ever-loving... But seriously, okay, a game gets made that pretty much ends up blowing things that you have done in the similar genre. It actually puts people into a position that they want to. We all know what I'm talking about, but if I have to say the words, I'll say the words anyways, okay? Power. Nintendo. You are a greedy little snippet. I mean, when you are one of the biggest AAA gaming companies in the world, just the biggest companies in the world to begin with, and you go after somebody just because you, what? Like, where are you making the extra bucks on this? Like, where are you gonna stop people from actually, like, playing this game? In fact, when you do these kind of things, it makes people want to play those games more and give you the finger. This is a classic case of a AAA company being way too big for its britches. I grew up playing Nintendo, the N64. Like, you know, playing Pokemon Stadium on the Nintendo 64. And then afterwards playing Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on the GameCube. Like, I grew up with Nintendo. I grew up with Game Boys, Game Boy Advances, and it was, for the way my family was, it was the most family-friendly console, and it was actually, you know, more inexpensive than the other choices out there at the time. You know, it fit. Like, Nintendo became such a wonderful part of my upbringing, and just in the recent year, and just this year alone, seeing what they have been doing, I mean, that it's just flat out there. Like, it's all just written out there that Nintendo is too much greed, which would count as another downfall for a lot of these companies. I mean, how long do we have that you gotta catch them all, as in catch all the bank accounts? Is that it? Is that what we're doing here? Is that the whole, you know, goal behind it? I don't know. But to go through and force like a patent and all that just to make yourself seem like the only one who can do something, like, it's stupid. It's genuinely, unequivocally stupid. Now, I could keep going on about this, but I'm just gonna go into some final thoughts on this all. 2024, it was really supposed to be a year of redemption. Like, there was a lot of stuff lined up in 2024 for AAAs, but it's really just highlighted that the industry itself has a lot of growing issues. Whether it's Ubisoft with their inability to innovate and wanting to stay in their shell, BioWare pretty much losing their sense of identity, or the failure of very ambitious products, or even having to stomp down other creators just because of either personal greed or even, you know, lack of self-confidence. It's clear something definitely needs to change. These problems, they're systematic. Their budgets ballooning to almost unsustainable levels at this point. The creativity is being stifled by either corporate interference, or maybe it's their own personal taste, and rather than looking at what their players would like, it's what they would like. And studios are really getting increasingly reliant on exploitative practices. You know, microtransactions, battle passes. I mean, I remember when there was a time when you bought a game and you got the full game right off the bat. Everything that they wanted to put into the game, it was already in the game. You didn't have to buy anything extra. But at the same time, you know, indie and mid-tier developers, they're doing good. Like, there are so many games out there right now that are just amazing. I'm still waiting to see when Zephyr ends up dropping. You know, that's a game that I ended up reviewing the demo for on this channel a while ago. Like, you know, about a year and a half ago. And I'm still waiting for that. Like, it's made by one dude. And I love it. I can't wait. You know, they're thriving. And they're focusing on the passion products, unique experiences. They're offering a very stark contrast to what is currently just, you know, supposed to be blockbusters. But honestly, it's more like churned out hogwash from the AAA world. As we look ahead this year, 2025, I really can't help but be super skeptical about where they're going from here. I'm hopeful that we see some standout releases. You know, maybe something that I would actually like to be able to play. While I'm not that optimistic that any of those standout releases are going to come from big name companies, if this past year has shown us anything. Seriously, AAAs, you need a serious wake-up call right now. I just hope they'll start listening to us before it's too late. Thanks for listening. I hope you all have a good one. Bye.